Daybreak Africa is your one-stop top-notch breakfast show that brings you all the interesting stories happening in and around Africa.
Because we have all the morning essentials,
including the latest news, sports, weather, and events. And of course, the people.
Daybreak Africa on Television Nigerian.
Weekdays, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Hello and welcome to Daybreak Africa here on Television Nigeria. My name is Messi Joe.
And my name is Elvis Oga. I'd like to say a very beautiful good morning to you and many thanks for joining us on the program this morning. Good morning, Messi Joe.
Good morning, partner. Good morning, everyone. All right.
TGIF. Thank God it's Friday.
Thank God it's Friday. But TGIF in your house.
I know you not fail to remind our people that always, because that is the times we find ourselves in.
Yeah, crucial times. All right, so international flight resumption. So it has been scheduled to reopen very soon, although no slated date yet, but there's the preparation for international flight movement.
I saw some of the preparation or preparatory guidelines put on ground to see that international flights are resumed gradually, and I saw that they are trying to take a lead from what happened with the resumption of local flights. I think we started with coming to the airport like 3 hours to a flight time, and I saw that scheduled for the resumption of international flight as well, because possibly that worked, because after a while we saw that okay, they now reduced the time from 3 hours to 1 hour 30 minutes and all. So gradually we're going to see how that works. And apart from that, this has to do with two different countries. Now when we're talking about international flights, so it does not rest solely on our aviation sector, because we now need some level of collaborative effort from the other countries, but we might want to carry out our flights too, so that if they still have some level of lockdown, how we could go about them, so that we don't have a case of maybe some of our aircraft being impounded, like what happened to an aircraft that flew
from the UK.
Yeah, some time back.
All right, it's a very good development. I'm just very glad and happy to see that we're gradually wiping away the fears. Yes, there are still fears, but then it's not limiting what we can do anymore. I mean, people can still do some things. We are now trying to live in the new cool. You understand? So I mean, moving forward, we have to grow past this stage. We can't just be in one place stagnant.
True.
Also, so even in yesterday during the address, during the PTF meeting, even the 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. curfew limitation on mass gatherings still holds.
And that's 10 p.m. to 4 a.m.
10 p.m. to 4 a.m. Yeah. Thank you, Madam. So that's still holding, and then the virtual holding of meetings and all that's still in place. Okay. So that's not yet gone. And then the gradual easing of the lockdown has been extended again by 4 more weeks.
Yeah.
All right.
When I saw that story last night after the PTF briefing, I saw that this is an issue, a perfect example of people who are not really saddled with the responsibility of dishing out disinformation, like the citizens of the country. Sometimes you might even want to forget that there is a lockdown, or there's still partial lockdown to an extent.
But
with constant reminders like this, it comes to the mind of people that, okay, this is still on, and then people tend to pay more attention to some of these guidelines that have been put in place. I mean, if you take a look at the activities that have been going on, and you may want to doubt if they still lockdown because like you keep talking about, even when we had a ban on interstate travel, we still had people traveling across different states,
and nothing was happening, no penalties.
And not to talk more of now that most people have seemed to have thrown caution to the wind, and they seems to be doing all of the activities and all. But like I think we talked about when the lockdown was gradually eased, we talk about it's more like shifting the responsibilities to the hands of the citizens now. So it is in our best interest to see that we adhere to these guidelines and see how we can protect ourselves from this deadly human enemy called the coronavirus. Yeah, because I'm looking at, the presidential task force. Ordinarily, like I said earlier on, you might not want to register in your consciousness that these things are in place, but with yesterday easing of lockdown, be like, oh, that's true.
Yeah, it's still there.
We needed this thing, and the last time we got this kind of extension, I think it was by 1 week or so.
By 2 weeks.
2 weeks last time, and I was like, ordinarily Nigerians might have feel because when the case was very serious and severe and the tensions were high, we saw that the president was coming.
The reminder was so fresh.
Yes, and the president was coming personally to address the nation. We saw that during the phase of the total lockdown, I addressed the nation up to about 3 times. But now, I think we got a briefing, or any new development is being passed across by PTF and all of that. So it's a good one. This reminder.
Yeah, and I think sometimes the reason why people may easily forget that there is actually a process called the gradual easing of the lockdown is that, for instance, in the FCT, even if there's a particular market that is saying, okay, these are the days that you come to the market, and then there are some other markets that have been opened on a daily basis. You go there, it's business as usual, and you can get anything and pick anything you want at any time of the day. They were opened, no guidelines being obeyed there in those markets, and then there's this other market that is obeying 1, 2, 3 days of the week. Now we saw a situation whereby the FCT, that particular market now, is now opened. So all the markets in the FCT now are open completely for all the days. So you see, things like that brings it back to that.
Okay, maybe
asking a question, things have gone back to normal. We are no longer in a gradual, as so quoted again. Anyway, that's that for that. All right, it's time to go to the news desk to get news from Susan Achin.
There are a lot of false information about the coronavirus. These are the facts. People of all ages can be affected by the coronavirus. However, older people and people with pre-existing medical conditions such as asthma, diabetes, heart diseases are more vulnerable to the disease. It is not for old people alone. Gargling salt and warm water or chewing garlic and ginger cannot prevent the virus. Drinking alcohol, hot lemon, palm oil or chloroquine will not kill the virus. The virus cannot be transmitted through mosquito bites. Antibiotics do not work against the viruses. Antibiotics work only against bacteria. Boiling pineapple peels, lime and ginger does not kill the virus. Putting raw onions in rooms will not ward off the virus. Using or spraying Dettol, special oils and water all over your body cannot kill the virus. There is no scientific evidence that cooking, drinking or eating any of these is an effective treatment for coronavirus. Do not self-medicate and take responsibility by sharing only verified messages from health authorities such as NCDC, Federal Ministry of Health and WHO.
Good morning and welcome to AM News. I am Susan Achin. Nigeria on Thursday reported 3 more deaths from COVID-19 as the country's infections from the virus crossed 45,000. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control (NCDC), which reviewed the latest figure, also said the country had 354 fresh COVID-19 cases for the day. Nigeria's latest COVID-19 infections were confirmed in 16 states and the Federal Capital Territory, taking the country's tally to 45,244. Although 32,430 persons who contracted the virus have been successfully treated and discharged, 930 deaths have so far been confirmed, according to the NCDC data. President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the extension of the second phase of the eased lockdown for another 4 weeks. This extension is the third for the second phase of lockdown currently observed across the country. Mr. Boss Mustafa, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation and Chairman of the Presidential Task Force (PTF) on COVID-19, disclosed this during the task force briefing in Abuja on Thursday. Now, the federal government has begun the process of restarting international flights. In a briefing on Thursday by the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, the PTF National Coordinator, Sani Aliyu, said approvals have been given for aviation authorities to commence the process for the resumption of international flights. Mr. Aliyu said the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority and other aviation agencies, as well as airlines, are to come up with a safe process through which international airlines can commence operations. The PTF coordinator said when international flight operations resume, passengers would arrive 3 hours before flights to ensure that there is no crowding at the airports. The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has introduced a dedicated portal where election results from polling units can be viewed in real time. This was disclosed by Festus Okoye, INEC spokesperson, in a statement on Thursday. According to the statement, the portal is a new step to further strengthen INEC's election management process and enhance the transparency of the system. The use of the portal will commence with the election in Nasarawa Central Constituency election, after which it will also be deployed in Edo and Ondo governorship polls. And now on the entertainment scene, Thursday evenings are fast becoming a day of reckoning for the housemates of Big Brother Naija, as their weekly wage challenge not only depends on the execution of their task, but their all-round behavior through the week. This week, the housemates impressed Big Brother on both grounds, leading to their first ever win. For their task, the housemates produced a musical set in the 80s, with their latest win coming in the third week of the show and in Ozza's reign as head of house. The housemates' wage win earned them double their BB Niger coins, which allows them to purchase luxury items at will. And that's it on AM News. I am Susan Achin. Daybreak Africa will continue shortly. Stay with us.
Welcome to News Across Africa on Daybreak Africa. Downpours this week in the southeastern state of Blue Nile, Sudan, caused a dam to burst and collapse, potentially compromising access to water for over 84,000 people. The Sudanese Civil Defense reported on Thursday that the incident caused the consequent damage and in some cases total destruction of around 3,000 homes. It appears some 1,800 homes were completely destroyed, while just over 1,500 were partially ruined. At least 10 people have lost their lives, while many displaced Sudanese seek shelter amid the deadly floods. In addition, 21 schools and 8 mosques have been washed away, and on Wednesday, the United Nations declared 50,000 people impacted by the situation. The Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs stated that the heavy rainfalls have not only caused flooding, but also landslides and damages to infrastructures in 14 of the country's 18 states. It is typical for Sudan to experience intense rainfall from June to October, and the country faces major floods each year. Since the outbreak of the coronavirus, there have been claims that the hydroxychloroquine can help in preventing and treat the deadly virus, and since it's been a valuable object that is trafficked. Chloroquine is well known in Africa and was one of the most widely prescribed anti-malaria drugs until the 1980s, but it is no longer authorized on the continent by the WHO. However, attempts are made to produce the drug locally, highlighting the flaws of the drug market in West Africa. In Nigeria, chloroquine in a 250 mg dosage can be sold, and prices have soared in the last 4 months. A packet of 60 tablets have gone from $8 to $194 in pharmacies. Despite the legal battle on illicit drugs in the sub-region, the traffic is on the increase. In Cameroon, a network of counterfeit chloroquine manufacturers was arrested in Bafoussam in March 2020. Several were recently seized in Niger, Mali, and Cote d'Ivoire. Now, the Guinea PM pitches for Condé at the party electoral convention, which has stirred violent protests in the West African nation. Condé said in quote, "This is the starting point today for a new, bright, and promising future for Guinea and Guineans. We are proud to be the vectors of this new hope for our country and our people," end quote, stressed Prime Minister Kasori Fofana. Condé is near the end of his second 5-year term in office, the maximum under the old constitution, which has just been revised and approved by a referendum. Critics say the changes are a ploy to enable the 82-year-old to reset his time in power. Now, under the new constitution, presidential terms are also limited to 2, but extended from 5 years to 6, which could theoretically enable Condé to govern for another 12 years. Now, Egypt withdrew from the Nile Dam talks scheduled today with Ethiopia, claiming that the proposal put forth by the nation lacked regulations on dam operations and any legal mechanism for settling disputes. Sudan also threatened to step out in rejection of the idea of sharing Blue Nile waters. Both nations have demanded that the talks be suspended for internal consultations on the proposal terms, which goes against the previous agreement during the African Union Summit. Egypt and Sudan invoke a historic right over the river put in place by treaties established in 1929 and in 1959. Ethiopia, on the other hand, refers to a treaty signed in 2010, boycotted by Egypt and Sudan, but signed by 6 riverside countries which authorized irrigation projects and dams on the river. The call came after a meeting of technical and legal committees from the 3 countries aimed at pushing for a deal on filling and operation of the GERD. The meeting was also attended by observers from the United States and the European Union, as well as experts from the African Union.
Alright, welcome back. That was news across Africa there. It's time to go to the dailies to see what's popping on the headlines this morning.
We have so many papers up for review this morning, and we'll be beginning with the Daily Sun. And just beside the nameplate, we have this headline: Ipman directs members to sell petrol at 150 naira. Chefs planned shutdown of filling stations as government extends eased lockdown. COVID-19, FG approves gradual resumption of international flights. Civil servant on GLs 1 to 12 to resume work. That is grade levels 1 to 12 to resume work. And then below the picture story, Edo pro Oshomole lawmakers pick on speaker deputy. And then below that we have security takes over assembly's roof removed. PDP APC trade blame. That story can be found on page 6 of the Daily Sun. And I'll take this last one here. We can't wear mask in church. Okochi. And you can find that story on page 8. You can also do well by picking a copy of the Daily Sun for details of the stories and even more.
Alright, let's take a look at the This Day newspaper this morning. The headline here: political crisis in Edo deepens as Assembly Speaker is removed. Obaseki pledges support for Okiye. Ize Iyamu congratulates Odoro. That's on page 9. Still on page 9, we have Buhari tells security agencies to deepen cooperation. Above the nameplate, World Bank board's meeting failure delays Nigeria's loan request. That's on page 9 as well. Below that, COVID begins distribution of 23 billion naira palliatives to 10 million Nigerians. That's on page 8. And I'll take this last story here. INEC inaugurates portal for live transmission of results. That's on page 5, I guess. That's what I'm seeing there. But that does it for the This Day newspaper.
Quite an interesting one right there. Now let's take a look at headlines from the Nation newspaper. And just above the nameplate, Lagos issues strict code for worship centers. You can find that on page 6 of the Nation newspaper. 46 guidelines listed, and beside that we have a story concerning car COVID here with the caption: car COVID's 23 billion naira food aid for 10 million people, 1.7 million families to benefit. We also have court OK's building on Saraki's disputed Ilorin land. Naira Marley's arraigned for flouting COVID-19 protocol. And then we have the banner headline with the caption, House of Assembly crisis throws Edo into turmoil. And we have this following headline below the picture story: 17 lawmakers to take over after sacking speaker and deputy. Lawmakers meet with police chief. INEC warns against violence. Heaps of sand dumped to commence renovation of complex. All right, and then I'll take this last one here. Gunmen killed 21 in Kaduna villages. Is that a fresh attack, or maybe more numbers coming from the previous attacks? Pick a copy of the Nation newspaper to find that out. And that does it for the Nation newspaper this morning.
All right, moving to the Tribune newspaper this morning. The headline here: Battle for Speaker roughens Edo governorship race. That's on page 3. Below that, gunmen kill pregnant woman, husband, 2 others in Bayelsa. That's a very sad one there. But that's on page 27 of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. Still below that, police intercept 40-foot container filled with tramadol codeine in Lagos. That's on page 26. Well, that's still going on in the country. Beside that, don't treat U.S. alert on Al-Qaeda with levity. Middle Belt firm tells federal government. That's on page 2. Above the nameplate, COVID-19. Federal government in process to reopen international flights. Extend phase 2 eased lockdown by 4 more weeks. That's on page 8. We just spoke about that.
Yeah, sure.
All right, still beside that, 22 feared killed in fresh southern Kaduna attack. That's on page 26. The attacks in Kaduna these days is becoming very alarming. All right, family demands CCTV footage of UI student's death in soap factory. Oyo begins investigation. That's on page 27. Still below that, Bauchi governor appoints special assistant on unmarried women affairs. That's on page 30. All right, beside that, social investment fund reps someone Adeoshun, Ahmed, Farouk, others over 1.7 trillion naira allocation. That's on page 6, if I'm getting the figure here correctly. And that does it for the Tribune newspaper this morning.
And up next for review is the Punch newspaper with the following headlines. The big bold headline from the Punch newspaper reads, Revolution now. Groups others fume as presidency calls protest child's play irritation. That story can be found on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. Buhari protested against Jonathan in 2014. Co-convener reaction insensitive, says ex-NBA VP. Regime is managing democracy, says ex-CDHR president. And 15 protesters still detained. That is coming from Falana. Below that, we have Naira Marley manager fined 100,000 for violating travel ban. NUC invites management, ASU, others over Lautech crisis. And beside that, we still have governors constitute panel to meet Buhari on worsening insecurity. I'll take these few more ones that are above the nameplate before we roll over to the next national daily. International flight to resume in weeks. That is coming from the federal government, and that story can be found on page 16 of the Punch newspaper. Still below that, more drama in Edo as faction impeaches Speaker. APC, PDP lay claim to assembly. That does it for the Punch newspaper this morning. If you want to get the details of these stories and even more, you can pick a copy of the Punch newspaper.
All right, Business Day newspaper this morning have this to say. Nigeria's delayed $1.5 billion World Bank loan affects you in more ways. Here are the full implications. So you want to understand the full implications. That's on page 29 of the Business Day newspaper. Beside that, in the special series of the Business Day newspaper on page 31, we have these 8 numbers capture Nigeria's worsening socio-economic crisis. That's on page 31. And above that, Nigeria and the single-digit interest rate. Is this a new normal? That's a question mark there. A key question for investment and business decisions. That's on Business Day newspaper this morning.
All right, we'll now move on to the Guardian newspaper to see headlines from there. And the headlines are as follows. Revenue crisis may push budget deficit above 6 trillion naira. And we also have 22 feared killed in fresh Kaduna attack. I think that answered the rhetoric question that was put forward from the former papers which we were asking if those numbers were from the previous attacks or recent one. The answer can actually be found or is being provided by the Guardian newspaper. You can pick a copy of the Guardian newspaper for more details of that particular story. And beside that, banks owe telecoms operators 7 billion naira in USSD charges concerning Edo State, which happens to be one of the stories that's almost on the front pages of every national daily this morning. Anarchy looms in Edo. And that's all we have from the Guardian newspaper. And that does it for the newspaper review segment of the program this morning. We'll now move on to our next package, which is on healthy living from our health desk.
Healthy diet is not about strict limitations, staying unrealistically thin, or depriving yourself of the foods you love. Rather, it's about feeling great, having more energy, improving your health, and boosting your mood. Healthy eating doesn't have to be overcomplicated. If you feel overwhelmed by all the conflicting nutrition and diet advice out there, you're not alone. By using these simple tips, you can cut through the confusion and learn how to create and stick to a tasty, varied, and nutritious diet that is as good for your body as it is for your mind. We all need a balance of protein, fats, carbohydrates, fiber, vitamins, and minerals in our diet to sustain a healthy body by selecting the healthiest options from each category. Protein gives you the energy to get up and go while also supporting mood and cognitive function. Too much protein can be harmful to people with kidney disease, but many of us need more high quality protein. Fats. Not all fat is the same. While bad fat can wreck your diet and increase your risk of certain diseases, good fats protect your brain and heart. In fact, healthy fats such as omega-3 are vital to your physical and emotional health. Fiber. Eating foods high in dietary fiber, grains, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and beans can help you stay regular and lower your risk for heart disease, stroke, and diabetes. It can also improve your skin and even help you to lose weight. Calcium, as well as leading to osteoporosis. Not getting enough calcium in your diet can also contribute to anxiety, depression, and sleep difficulties. Carbohydrates are one of your body's main sources of energy, but most should come from complex vegetables, whole grains, fruit rather than sugars and refined carbs. To set yourself up for success, try to keep things simple. Try these simple things. 1. Prepare more of your own meals. 2. Make the right changes when cutting back on unhealthy foods in your diet. 3. Read the labels because it's important to be aware of what's in your food. 4. Focus on how you feel after eating. This will help foster healthy new habits and tastes. 5. Drink plenty of water to flush out your systems of waste products and toxins.
welcome back. That was the healthy living index there. I mean, we always have one or two things to keep you. It's a lot that we have to eat very healthy things: calcium, protein, carbohydrates, vitamins, water.
Not forgetting to point out the detriment of not taking the right proportion of food that contains this valid element in the body.
I'm sure Elvis knows that very well. All right, we move to our next package on a documentary, the impact of COVID-19 and post-COVID-19. The effects of COVID-19 and post-COVID-19. Let's listen to that.
In the past 2 weeks, the number of cases of COVID-19 outside China has increased 13-fold, and the number of affected countries has tripled. There are now more than 118,000 cases in 114 countries, and 4,291 people have lost their lives. Thousands more are fighting for their lives in hospitals. We have therefore made the assessment that COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
The latest strand of coronavirus, known as COVID-19, was first reported in the commercial city of Wuhan in faraway China. More than 9,920 kilometers away from Lagos, the first place to record a COVID-19 case in Nigeria. From Wuhan, the virus traveled around the world at light speed and leaving behind trails of devastating consequences. In no time, the virus was declared a pandemic even before it found its way to Lagos, Nigeria.
So the gentleman who came here apparently may have gotten infected at a point, but walked through the scene, the screening, with no symptoms. And by the time he got to his house, I think a day or two after, he started to feel unwell. And wisely enough, he went to a hospital.
Like an angry raging wildfire, burning almost everything on its path, the pandemic imprinted catastrophic effect on every aspect of Nigeria's socio-economic life. Most Nigerians perceive coronavirus first as an economic crisis before a health risk. And this is not surprising, with a negative turnaround that the country's economy could contract by 3.2% from a positive forecast of growing by 2.1% in 2020. As the virus raged, Nigeria closed its land borders and airspace, went into a mandatory confinement, and did little or nothing to stem the spread of the virus. With sharp drop in crude oil prices and drop in revenue generation, Nigeria faces daunting obstacles to finance its budget. With closing of the airspace, airlines have lost over 180 billion naira and 91,000 jobs expected to be lost in the same sector.
The disaster facing the airline industry is much bigger. I would say it is bigger post-COVID than any other industry at all. Because if the airline industry is tied to economic growth of any nation, post-COVID economic collapse and challenge of the industry can best be imagined. With 1 million aircraft on ground all over the world, the Nigerian airlines, as weak as we claim they are, if they are down for another 6 months, it's going to be a very major disaster.
As the lockdown continued to bite hard on medium and small-scale enterprises, employers laid off staff or cut staff salary by up to 50%. Schools remained closed for all cadres of classes, thereby disrupting the academic calendar and putting in great doubt whether Nigerian students will sit for 2020 WAEC examinations. Nigeria's health sector, which even before now had been plagued with dilapidated health infrastructures or lack of it thereof, had been overstretched beyond its capacity.
When COVID-19 came, we thought we were ready, but you and I can see now that we're not ready. You know, our level of preparedness and response clearly will actually require a lot of, in fact, it's getting, the truth is that COVID-19 has actually shown Nigeria as having a very, very weak health system. That is the truth.
It is projected that additional 7 million Nigerians will fall into the poverty bracket by the time the pandemic is over, and unemployment may shoot over 35%. In the midst of all that, incidences of rape and other sexual-related offenses cases were also on the rise. Between January and May 2020, over 717 rape cases were reported in Nigeria.
One of those conclusions that we are making now is the fact that the lockdown, of course, has necessitated perpetrators to be within the same confine, within the same space as the survivors, as the people who are being raped, with the women and the girls. So the women and the girls are helpless. The perpetrator also knows that the women and girls are helpless at this time.
Despite federal government's repeated assurances that the country was ready for the eventualities of the virus in Nigeria, the country was caught unawares when the first case of the virus was reported in Lagos on February 28, 2020. This was besides the case of an Indian working at Dangote refinery in Ibeju, Lekki area of Lagos, who was alleged to have come into the country with the virus undetected. These incidences betrayed government's earlier assurances of preparedness. In an effort to contain the spread of the virus, President Muhammadu Buhari on March 30th declared a total lockdown in 2 states of the Federation, Lagos, Ogun, and the FCT Abuja, where the virus was more pronounced.
Based on the advice of the Federal Ministry of Health and NCDC, I am directing the cessation of all movements in Lagos and the FCT for an initial period of 14 days with effect from 11 p.m. on Monday, 30th March 2020. This restriction will also apply to Ogun State due to its close proximity to Lagos and the high traffic between the 2 states. All citizens in these areas are to stay in their homes.
The lockdown was more a knee-jerk reaction than a deliberate and well-thought-out policy by the government of Nigeria. In order to cushion the severe effect of the lockdown, the president ordered the immediate disbursement of financial aid of 20,000 naira as palliative to the most poor and the vulnerable. The palliative created more concerns and questions than it created succor or relief for which it was intended. The Central Bank of Nigeria provided a 50 billion naira stimulus package to firms to help support them stay afloat. In addition, the CBN also provided a 3 million credit facility to families impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic.
Of its financial system stability mandate, the Central Bank of Nigeria is committed to providing support for affected households, businesses, regulated financial institutions, and other stakeholders in order to cushion the adverse economic consequences of this pandemic on our people. Creation of a targeted credit facility. The CBN hereby establishes a facility through National Microfinance Bank to the sum of about 50 billion naira for households and micro, small and medium enterprise size enterprises that have been particularly hit by COVID-19, including but not limited to hoteliers, airline service providers, healthcare merchants, and etc.
Meanwhile, the Bankers Committee pledged to provide 3.5 trillion in support to pharmaceutical companies, assist essential health companies in purchasing raw materials and encouraging local production of goods. The health sector, which before now had largely been ignored, saw huge investments in providing medical equipment and other infrastructure. According to the Nigerian Medical Association President, Professor Innocent Uja, before the pandemic, Nigeria has just 3 PCR machines, but now the country has about 33 PCR machines. PCR machines are essential to determine and detect the coronavirus.
Even then, the equipment are not there. You can see that when we started, I think the PCR machines that we had in Nigeria, at the time, that was by the 27th of February, when the first case of coronavirus was reported in Nigeria. We didn't have up to 5 PCR machines. But today, there's an improvement. We have about 33, I think, or more. That's an improvement.
The federal government also moved to stem mass sacking of employees by formulating a policy promising 50% tax refund to companies who do not lay off staff during the pandemic. The House of Representatives passed the Emergency Economic Stimulus Bill 2020 on March 24th to provide support to businesses and individual citizens of Nigeria. The law's aim is to provide 50% tax rebate to businesses that are registered under the Company and Allied Matters Act so they can use the savings to continue employing their current workers. The federal government rallied around the private sector to raise $330 million in donations to be able to tackle the pandemic. The government also approached the International Monetary Fund to borrow $3.4 billion as an emergency support to Nigeria to tackle the economic impact of the pandemic. According to the World Bank, the shock of COVID-19 will likely push 5 million Nigerians into poverty by the end of the pandemic. Before the pandemic, the number of poor Nigerians was expected to increase by about...
Welcome back. That was the documentary on the impact of COVID-19 and post-COVID-19 in the world, the projections and what have you. So
a whole lot of impact being projected right there. We actually saw some of them come to pass already. I think I listened to the part that we were talking about the uncertainty surrounding the participation of Nigerian students in the Regional West African Examination Council and all. So, yeah, we saw the deliberation that actually greeted that with federal government giving some date for resumption, going back on it before finally announcing a particular date. And we have the students back in school already.
All right, that's how much you can take today on Daybreak Africa. Here on television, Nigeria is TGIF, so like I always say, TGIF in your houses. I mean, get your drinks, go home, jolly with your family. My name is Messenger. And
my name is Elvis Oga. I'd like to say a very big thank you for riding with us on the show this morning. It's a happy weekend from Television Nigeria to you. Stay safe and stay out of trouble. Do have yourself a lovely weekend. And
we'll be leaving you with a package on a straight grid on Can You Lie to Save Your Marriage? Drop your comment as well. Bye.
Bye-bye.
The Nigerian police force is the principal law enforcement agency in Nigeria, with a staff.
Like there's one of my friends, we met yesterday, she's married. She has been trying to get pregnant and she has not been able to conceive. So she just went to try outside. So I advise her to just try. Let us even know where this problem is coming from. So yes, as at yesterday, she took him. Her husband will not know forever and ever and ever.
One of the lie I told, some of this lie like send me money, I will, or okay, send me your account number. You know you don't have that money at that moment. So later you didn't say it, so that was just very common.
Like several places I go to that I don't want him to know. For him, I don't really know. He doesn't lie to me. He say everything about him. Even if he go out with another girl, he will tell me.
Huh?
He does.
I won't say it. You know, one thing about our society is that if a man commits offense in marriage, they don't even regard it as a serious issue. But a woman commits it, everybody will say, hey, atrocity, abomination, tofiakwa.
Can you lie to sustain your relationship?
It depends. It depends. If the relationship is worth it, why I can tell a lie to sustain it? Yes. It depends. Depends on the relationship.
What if he finally finds out? What will happen?
Well, I guess that's my fate.
Can you tell me one of the lies you tell before?
Oh, please. Okay, the normal lie. Hello, where are you? And then you tell the person a place where you're not. And
I mean the one you lied, they caught you.
The one I lied, I told a lie and they caught me. I think that would be when I said somebody was my friend and actually wasn't my friend. So, yeah, that's it.
So in the end, what happened? How did you say?
Well, everything flowed well because there wasn't anything serious going on. We were just talking, and then my boyfriend got to find out. And at first, I wanted to deny everything. You know, typical ladies. But then again, it's not worth it since there's nothing between me and the other person. He found out, but I clarified everything. So yeah.
Can you tell me one of the lies you tell and you were caught in the end?
One of the lie I told. Some of these lie like send me money, I will, or okay, send me your account number. You know you don't have that money at that moment. So later you didn't say it, so that was just very common.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir. Tell me one of the lies you tell that you think he cannot find us forever.
Okay, there's one of my friends. We met yesterday. She's married. She has been trying to get pregnant and she has not been able to conceive. So she just went to try outside. But she told me though, so I advised her to just try. Let us even know where this problem is coming from. So yes, as at yesterday, she took him. So I'm coming from Gogolada now, so we went to take care of it. So her husband will not know forever and ever and ever.
Do you think so? Do you think so?
Yes.
What if the husband knows that he cannot pregnant the woman and now?
Because the husband has refused to go for checkup to even find out what is going on. So as her friend, we advised her to just go and just do something about it. Let us even know where the problem is coming from.
So can you like to keep your relationship?
To an extent, yes.
If she caught you, what do you think will happen?
Honestly, I'm in such predicament now.
Can you tell us just brief?
Actually, she just saw a text message on my phone and she was asking who's this person. I was just mute, I couldn't say anything.
So how do you think you handle this now?
Honestly, I don't know. I can't tell you.
So you want the relationship to die like that?
No, I'm not going to risk it. It won't.
Okay, but just brief, how do you think you can handle the situation? Okay, if she was one that lied now, what would you do?
To be frank, I'll take it personal. Yeah.
Will you forgive her?
I will, but it's going to be hard.
Do you want her to forgive you now?
Of course, I do.
Because you will be hard to forgive her.
That's why I said it's all about the gender. It depends on how you, both male and female, handle such issues. That's just it.
I cannot sustain a relationship.
But can you tell lie? Even your relationship is going to want to die, and it's only lie that can sustain. Can you tell lie?
So if I know the relationship is going to die, and for me to tell lie to sustain it, I can't, because I'm not sure the lie will sustain the relationship. It's just for us to ask for the help of God in the relationship.
Can you tell me a lie you tell that you are caught in the end? Can you tell me one of them?
The lie I tell, and I was caught at the end. Okay, maybe there was a time I lied to my friend. That was my friend in the village. I'm in Abuja. Though the first time I came to Abuja, I don't have a house where to stay. I was squatting with someone and sleeping outside at times. So if I called home, how far is work? Even by then, I've not even gotten a job. But I was telling them work is fine, everything is fine. I didn't know there's a time that one of my friends is coming from the village and she asked that she'll come and stay before she go back. Thinking she thought that I'll have a house because that is what I told her. Meanwhile, I've not even gotten a house. I was squatting with someone. So, and at the end, she discovered I lied. I didn't have a house and.
So How did you feel at that moment?
I feel embarrassed. I feel okay. How I wish I would have told her the truth from the beginning.
Thank you very much. What is his name?
Blessing.
Well, honestly, there are some lies that are very, very necessary, you know, just to sustain your relationship,